Hello and welcome back to Win or Bin. Today we have a game called Sælig for you. Now this is not a new game. This has actually been out since July 2017 and it's still in early access. I have purchased the game rather than got the demo that is available, which is fine if you'd like to have a go with that, but this is the purchased game that I'm playing here. So not new, but a game that's in early access and I feel like I would like to review it. It's something that I've had on my wish list for quite a while actually, but I have just decided to plunge in and buy it. Sælig is set in the dark ages of England, although I'm not sure that the developers are English because there are some typos about the place. But anyway, we digress. But the idea here is to take on the role of an individual. You can customize the way they look, build their character up from the beginning with some backstories, and the idea is to then potentially run a business, become a landlord, become a master criminal, raise a family, and become prosperous, essentially becoming maybe somebody who owns everything in a town and controls things politically, because there is some political control here as well, so you can have some sort of say on the town council and or roles within the town structure itself. There's tons of different things that you can do here, so you can start in multiple different locations in England, some with small towns, some with larger towns, some with no towns whatsoever, and just a blank canvas for you to start with some money and start buying plots and putting down your own buildings. So there's a whole bunch of things really that you can do to start with straight away. And actually, that is one of the positives for me. So when you do start the game, you can pick to be just a standard settler, or individual, so no particular route, with some money, and you can go off and buy a bakery, for example, and that would be the start of your business. But there's different things. You can start as a beggar, you can start as the town drunk, you can start as already an entrepreneurial businessman, you can start as a thief, you can start as anything you could quite possibly imagine within a game space, I would have thought. And it gives you a chance to play with some different scenarios, starting scenarios perhaps. The towns remain the same based on the map that you choose, but your role within that town, there's a whole load of things that you can do, and that's brilliant because it makes this game feel almost endless in terms of possibility, at least as a starting point anyway, which is great. So to couple with that, there are so many paths that you can take, so however you decide to start the game, you can branch into whichever direction you want. So I've played games where I've started off as a baker with my own bakehouse and obviously baking bread and cakes and things like that, and then aiming to perhaps build or construct a field that would allow you to supply the raw material for that, and a mill, of course, which is going to be part of that process. And another one, I've tried doing the farming, so livestock for cheese, meats, hides, and off the back of that, I then tried to get a hunting hut started as well, so that would be like a food supply kind of role that I was going for. But anything you can think of, you can probably have a go with. There are buildings that you can build that don't exist on the map, or you can buy housing, other businesses, and there are other families that compete with you, people that compete with you. So there is a lot in that respect. So you're not just going it alone to see how much you can do yourself. There are other people trying to buy businesses as well to try and maybe compete with what you had in mind of doing. There's so many things that you can buy, make, and sell, so you're never really going to be short of ideas of what you might want to consume or get your hands on, really. So there's weapons to armor, there's things you can eat, things that you can use, just so many things, and that's great also. Overall, the game looks nice. It feels simplistic in its graphics, but I don't think it needs to look $1 million at all, because I think the game here is actually, the strength of this game is actually what's under the bonnet. So it's those business paths that you take and that family path that you take with hoping to find a woman and then have children and then keep going through the lineage that way. But the graphics are quite nice. You can zoom in quite a good way and it looks nice as well, so no problems there. But don't expect $1 million in terms of your looks. Also, at the beginning of your save, I know I'm taking us back a step right to the beginning again, but when you start a game, you've actually got under the advanced menu loads of different things that you can switch on and off. So whether or not the raiders are more frequent, aggressive, you can have construction only requiring wood, you can have construction requiring nails, you've got illness on there that you can include. There's just lots of different things that you can switch on and off to make your experience the way you want it to be, which is, again, an absolute positive for me. On to some negatives. So there are some. Sometimes the UI does feel a bit clunky or unclear in places. Some menus that you go into just aren't obvious how to navigate around. If you are a new player, some of it could seem quite daunting. You go into one of your business's buildings, and you can't necessarily be totally sure of what's what straight away. You do have to do a bit of experimenting, clicking around a bit, which is fine, but I do think that there does need to be a bit more of an intuitiveness about those menus in some places, and the UI could be tidied up a little bit to make it a little bit better. I think this game has improved over the years, because I've seen some footage of some of the older versions of this, so it has improved, so I'm sure it will continue to improve though. On a similar line, if you interact with another character, so you click on someone and you want to talk to them as one of the options, bear in mind there's a hell of a lot of options that you can do. There's I'm sort of going back to some of the positives here in a way in terms of what you have to do, but you can talk to people, you can flirt with people, you can punch them, you can rob them with buildings, you can set fire to them, you can vandalize them, you can defecate on them. Why not? You can peer into them if you want. But anyway, one of those is interaction. One of those interactions is talking, and when you talk, a menu comes up with some options that you can click on. So talk, ask questions, flirt, insult, depending on what you want to do. And that menu does look a bit dated and could do with making much nicer. Another negative, but this may be something I've missed in terms of my complaint. So if I'm getting this wrong, let me know. But when I was trying to find a love interest in the game to expand my family, I picked someone who was single at random and began like flirting with them and raising my reputation with that person with me until it got to a high enough level we could do lovemaking. And what I love to do actually before that is just go and get some eggs and just eat some eggs and then go and do some lovemaking, just because that just sounds funny in my head. Just before that, just pile yourself full of eggs. Why not? So anyway, so went and did that. She got pregnant. She had the baby. And in her profile, in her family, the baby came under her. So you could see that it was hers and part of her family. In my family tree, there was no baby. Now, the woman wasn't living with me. She wasn't married to me because she wouldn't accept my proposal. Perhaps that's why. But that child was still mine, but it never appeared. So if I died, I'd have no successor, which I don't agree with because I did. So I'm not really sure what was going on there. And one final negative is actually the automation. So a building can be automated to make certain things. And to be honest with you, that's fine. But I don't feel like there's enough control of what you want to automate. So for example, there is an option of when you want to take things you produce. Let's take a farm, for example, and I was doing cheese. And I've got a load of cheese that's in storage, and I choose the full load off to market at the end of the day option. So what should happen is they fill up the cart at the end of the day, end of the shift, load it with what I've got in storage, take it off to the market, sell it. My cart has enough capacity to take everything that's in store, but it doesn't. It kept taking some of the goods to market, selling it, returning the cart to the field, and the workers would finish for the day. Now, for me, it should, based on the wording alone, in my opinion, load up the cart to capacity with what you've got in storage for selling, and go and sell it. That wasn't happening, and it was annoying because I would then have to go and take my character out of hours and go and do it myself. I didn't really want to do that. So I feel like there's some holes here, and there are other things, but I'm not going to reel off everything because for me, this game is actually really good. And I know I've given some negatives, I've given some positives, but it's actually a whole load of fun, and it's really immersive, and there's so much that you can do here. I've got to give it a win rating because although this is still in early access, the developers are still actively doing things. And I think this can only get better. And it is a whole bunch of fun at the moment. Naming your character, trying to get your family started, eating eggs, the freedom of the buildings that you want to have business ownership of, things that you make within those businesses, the hiring of staff, interaction between yourself and the other people in terms of what you could do, interaction with the buildings. There's a hell of a lot of stuff here. There's combat. It's a lot of fun. I can recommend this certainly, but there's a demo available in the Steam store. So if you're not sure, get your hands on that. But it's a win for me. So thank you for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.